Okay, part B of the LightBoard free response question. Reading through it, I had to read this one a couple times to be honest, because it ends up being just kind of like a giant conditional. So you've got to return either true or false based on these rules. So if the light is on, current light, so it's going to take in, this method takes in, wherever the heck it is, it takes in a row and a column. And so that'll be a specific light. So if that light is on, return false if the number of lights in its column are even, including the current light. So that would be counted in the count, included in the count. If the light is off, return true if the number of lights in its column that are on is divisible by 3. Otherwise, return the light's current status. So just return, because the light is either on or off, true or false, so you'd return that if none of these conditions are met. So we're going to build a big if, and when I did this, I had to read it a couple times, and then I also had to look at the example. So evaluate light 0, 3 would be, let's see, row 0, column 3. Okay, so in that case, it's on. So if it is, the light is on, return false if the number of lights in its column is even. So then we would count up 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 that are on in that column. So that is an even number. So then we would return false in that case. Okay, so I think that should be right. Column or even. Okay, so this one, next one, 6, 0. So would be this one right here. That is a false. So if the light is off, so it is off, false means off. Return true if the number of lights in this column is divisible by 3. So here I'd have to count how many are on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So then that's divisible by 3. So the light is off and divisible by 3, so it would return true, I think. Okay, and then 4, 1 as an example. So row 4, column 1 would be false. And so if it's false, we gotta count them up and see if it's even. So there are 2 that are even. So I would guess that would return, well, it says returns the current light status. Let me look at it one more time. So row 4, column 2. So if the current light is on, oh, it's off. So the current light is off. Okay. So we are here. We're number 2 if it's light. Return true if it's divisible by 3. So it's not divisible by 3. So then we return the current status, which is false. Okay. So that is pretty complicated, but we're definitely going to have to loop through the column and count how many are on. We're going to need to do that and then check if that's divisible by if it's even or if it's divisible by 3, depending on if the light is on or off. So pretty complex, but I'm going to start with, I'm just going to count how many are on. So I'm going to do count that are on, and set that to be 0, and then I'm going to loop through the column. All right, so we have to loop through the column that we're on. So that means we're going to be, the column will be fixed, and then the row will change. So if you go back and look visually, right, if I wanted to loop through this column here, column 0, I would keep 0 for my column, and row would go 0 up to less than the number of rows. Okay, so back in my code, I'm going to do for int row equals 0. Row is less than the number of rows, which is, we're using this variable again, this lights variable. Again, it's sort of like a global variable, so it's accessible everywhere. So I can do it down here. So I'm going to do lights. I'm going to loop through that 2D array dot length. Remember, that's the number of rows is the length. Right, how each item in there is a single D array, so how many single D arrays you have is how many rows you have. So that's lights.length. Okay. Oh, it doesn't like row because this is called row too. So maybe I'll just call this R then. Yikes. So I'll call it R. And then we're going to count how many are on. So if it's lights, position, row, R, and column. So I'm going to fix the column again, fix the column with the one that came in, and then loop through the rows, and that'll go through every spot in the array. Okay, and then so if it's on, so this is basically, it's already true or false. So sometimes I'll see students do equal true here, which is fine. but it's already true or false. So we can just say if it's on, basically, if that light is on. Okay, then I'm going to plus the count number that are on. Okay. Okay, so now I think I can start to do, I've counted how many are on, so now I can do my giant if. So the way I do it, this isn't necessarily the most efficient, but I do it exactly the way it's written. So if the light is on, okay, so I'm going to check if lights, position, row, and column, those are the two things that are passed in, right? That's the spot we're kind of checking. We're evaluating that specific light. So if that light is on, and then, so if it is on, return false if the number of lights in that column is even, including the current light. So that would be this count. So if the count is even, so I'm going to do if count on mod 2 equals 0. So the remainder when you divide by 2, if that is 0, that's how you check if something is even. Okay, then we are going to return, what does it say here? Return false. Okay, and there is no else. So that's what's kind of weird, is like there is no else to this. Sort of the else is return the current light status. But I'm going to do that at the very end. So I'm going to say if either of these cases get caught, return something. Otherwise, do the default thing at the end. Okay, so I think that's the rest of that one. So my else here would be the light is off, which is what I want to do next. I could do a separate if here, but basically if the light is off, that's part 2. So now we got to return, if it's off, return true if the number of lights is divisible by 3. So I'm going to do if count on mod 3 this time equals 2. That means it's evenly divisible by 3. Okay, then I'm going to return true according to the directions. Divisible by 3, return true. Okay, and then if neither of those things happen, then I just want to return the current status. So that would just be the true or false that is currently stored at that row and column. I'm just going to return lights, row, column, right? And that is how we evaluate the light. And please know that this is not the most efficient way to do it. You certainly could set up your ifs, like you could do an and here, like if this light is on and count on is divisible by 2. So you could kind of do it differently, but that's the basic idea. If you're worried about your specific code, you can always email it to me and I can kind of check to see how it went. But we definitely would need this to count how many are on and then go from there. All right, so that's it. Thanks for watching.